is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture.
The day the first episode of The Outer Limits was broadcast was September 16, 1963, on ABC. The show, which was an hour-long science fiction horror anthology, was the brainchild of producer Leslie Stevens, who was also the producer of the television western series Stony Burke, starring Jack Lord. Yes, the same Jack Lord that went on to Hawaii Five-0 fame. Each episode of The Outer Limits would begin with a preview, or a so-called cold opening which would jump right into the middle of the story. This was followed by the mysterious control voice that would take control of your television set for the next hour. At the end of the episode, the control voice would then return control of the television set to the viewer. It was an incredibly effective and eerie introduction and sign-off to a very distinct and visually striking show that set it apart from anything else on television. In retrospect, The Outer Limits is often compared to its predecessor, The Twilight Zone, with many people often mistaking Outer Limits episodes for Twilight Zone episodes. But The Outer Limits had a much heavier emphasis on science fiction and horror, where Twilight Zone was more fantasy-oriented. For its original pilot episode, the series was titled Please Stand By, but the name was rejected by the network as they believed audiences would mistake the opening credits as an emergency broadcast signal during the Cold War period of history in the early 60s, and so the show was renamed The Outer Limits, so it wouldn't confuse the audience to the premise of the show. In its first season, screenwriter and co-producer Joseph Stefano wanted to include a monster of some kind in every episode, which he referred to as the bear. He thought that this was important to build fear and suspense in the audience. When Stefano left the series after Season 1, Season 2 focused more on the hard science fiction aspects without the creature on every show. The show featured many episodes written by award-winning writers like Harlan Ellison, who wrote 2 episodes including Demon with a Glass Hand and Soldier, Robert Towne, who won an Oscar for his Chinatown movie script and wrote the episode The Chameleon, and of course Joseph Stefano himself, who had just written the screenplay for Alfred Hitchcock's groundbreaking movie Psycho. Stefano also went on to write more scripts than anyone else for the show. Aside from its science fiction roots, the show was also known for using inventive lighting techniques and camera work associated with film noir. This gave the show an extremely eerie, unsettling, and frightening feel, enhanced by being filmed entirely in black and white. This feel was largely the work of 3-time Academy Award-winning cinematographer Conrad Hall, who worked on many of the first season episodes, as well as John M. Nicholas and Kenneth Peach. Under the name of Project Unlimited, a group of props and creature designers came up with the various horrifying and unforgettable monsters and props which were used on the show. Many famous actors would appear on The Outer Limits. In particular, one actor appeared in 3 of the most chilling and psychologically frightening shows that were produced. That actor was Robert Culp. He starred in Corpus Earthling and Demon with a Glass Hand, and also starred in an episode that some local ABC affiliate stations decided to censor. They decided that the monster in that episode, known as a Thetan, was so frightening that they would display a black screen whenever the monster was on screen. This basically censored most of the episode's final act when the creature was present. In some parts of the US, the show was not shown until after 11 p.m. or just not broadcast at all. That infamous episode was called The Architects of Fear and centered around a group of scientists who decided to create a fake alien, which they hoped would unite the world against the common enemy. Their hope was that the threat to the Earth would unite the planet and save the world from nuclear destruction. The well-meaning scientists drew lots, and Dr. Alan Layton, played by Culp, drew the winning lot. He then had to undergo a bizarre, radical surgery to transplant and modify every part of his body, completely transforming him into an alien from the planet Theta. He was then launched into space with the ship disguised as a weather satellite to hopefully land at the United Nations, where humanity would then unite. His ship goes off course, though, and lands in a wooded area near the lab, where hunters shoot and critically wound him. He finds his way back to the lab, where he is found by his pregnant wife, Yvette. While dying, he somehow manages to make a sign in the air with his hand, which Yvette recognizes as one her husband used to make, and she finally realizes the terrible truth, that this unrecognizable creature laying in front of her is, in fact, her husband, who the scientist had told her was dead. This ending is one of the most gut-wrenching and emotionally charged endings of the entire series, and will never be forgotten once seen. If you're a science fiction fan, this episode is a true classic, and it still holds up to this day. When ABC decided to move the show to a terrible Saturday night time slot, producer and writer Joseph Stefano decided to leave the show, seeing the writing on the wall. The first season had earned a loyal following and proved a huge hit with younger viewers, but the Saturday night time slot pitted the show against the extremely popular Jackie Gleason show, where it took a nosedive in the ratings. Instead of moving the show back to its old time slot, the network decided to cancel it midway through the second season. In total, only 49 episodes were produced, but the influence and originality of The Outer Limits continues to this day, as those classic episodes remain as some of the most original, chilling, and memorable shows to grace the TV screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
We now return control of your television set to you. Until next week at this same time, when the control voice will take you to The Outer Limits.